Now, council by-elections don't often stir the blood, but there was one in Bristol this week that got political pulses racing. Pete Simpson went behind the scenes.
The sound of where we live is
BBC Radio Bristol.
It's a beautiful winter's morning here on the Harbourside. We're at the Lloyd's Amphitheatre. We've got Millennium Square behind us. We can see the Balmoral, the M Shed.
It's the penultimate day of the by-election campaign, and for these two candidates, a highlight, an interview on Radio Bristol.
I've been the councillor here before, 30 years ago, so in a way I'm going back to where I started back in the 1990s.
In every ward surrounding Hotwells and Harbourside, there are Green councillors, and people there like what they're seeing.
The seat of Hotwells and Harbourside is up for grabs. It's a quirky ward that was last time a wafer-thin win for the Lib Dems, with the Green Party a very close second. Now their candidate is fresh-faced Patrick, who, if successful, would make the Greens the largest party on the City Council. They've thrown everything at the campaign, including a visit from their most recognisable politician.
Last day of campaigning today, Patrick. Yes. How do you rate your chances?
It's going to be very close, right. I think, as we were discussing earlier, but it's a pretty much neck-and-neck race at the moment between myself and the Liberal Democrat candidate. Whatever happens at polling tonight tomorrow, it's going to be a really close result.
For the Lib Dems, it's the more experienced Stephen Williams, a former government minister whose various attempts to be re-elected since losing his Westminster seat have all ended in failure. Is his political career nursing a beer at the Last Chance Saloon, I wonder?
Why are you doing this, Stephen?
Do you know what? A lot of people have asked me that. Being at the top level, why are you going back to where you started? I have asked myself that once or twice, but when our previous councillor resigned, I just thought this was a great opportunity to represent a really interesting part of the city.
Trying to outflank the fellas, Labour's Eileen Means, who, unlike the others, actually lives on the Harbourside.
I think I'm the dark horse coming up the inside, galloping like mad. And the others are so busy, you know, dumpty-dumpty-dum, looking at each other. They can't see me coming up the inside.
A late surge.
A very late surge, but we'll get there.
And it wouldn't be a by-election without some strange shenanigans. Also on the ballot is the editor of Bristol 24/7 magazine, who's withdrawn from the race, but actually too late to be removed from the ballot paper. There are many a serious issue for voters here, increasing harbour charges, overdevelopment and cladding amongst them. There have also been accusations of skullduggery, smears and overspending. But once all the doors have been knocked and all the leaflets dropped, it's time to head to the polls.
And that's the thing with by-elections. Doesn't matter how much you try and convince people, most don't bother to vote. It does mean, though, that a small number of votes could swing it either way. So perhaps the real drama will take place tonight at the count.
On a blustery Bristol night, were we witnessing the political winds of change inside City Hall? They waited nervously and ate cake as the votes were counted, then counted again. Finally, at gone midnight,
And I know it's been a long campaign, Patrick, and you've worked very hard. What are you going to do now? It's quite late. You're going to go and paint the town green?
Well, if I told you that, I will have to not be on camera.
So, elation for the young pretender, despair for the seasoned campaigner. In a piece of political symmetry, the Greens won by just 26 votes, exactly the amount they lost by last time. They'll do it all again next May.
Really reminds you, doesn't it, the amount of work that candidates put into getting elected. And so, I mean, thanks for taking part in local democracy to them all, winners and losers. Sangham, you were out campaigning with the Labour candidate. It's in your constituency, this ward, and Labour managed 100 votes.
Well, first of all, congratulations to Patrick. I mean, taking part in democracy is a huge responsibility, and as you said, it's a lot of work. And also congratulations to all candidates and all canvassers who are volunteers giving up their time because they believe in local democracy. Second of all, this is a seat which, to my recollection, I don't think Labour's held. It's been a Lib Dem seat for quite a long time. I may be wrong about that, but I'm not sure we've ever really held that seat. It's always been a strong Lib Dem stronghold.
Yeah.
And third of all, I mean, I think people want to have their say. And Bristol West, I've been the MP for Bristol West since the 8th of May 2015. People are very independent-minded here. They make up their own minds.
Do you get the sense that people on the doorsteps, as they say, liked the Labour administration in Bristol?
I think there were lots of things going on. I think they had questions and concerns about some of the local decisions, and that's just there.
In particular?
Well, I think there's been some questions about. There were questions about the library, which I think are now settled. But there are also questions which is now staying, and I'm very glad about that. But that that's stuck, and I completely understand why people are concerned about that. I'm glad that the library's staying, and I'm very pleased to say that I think the Labour Party actually is going to offer that climate change agenda that we so badly need after a general election.
Yeah,
but people are taking part.
Lawrence Robertson, let's just come back to you very quickly, and I wouldn't expect you to know the ins and outs of a Bristol by-election, but it's only 500 days now to the next general election at the most. Will it be Rishi Sunak in charge, or will Boris Johnson make a comeback?
I think Rishi Sunak will be in charge at the next general election, whether it's 500 days or less than that. I think that is probably the easiest question you've asked me today, David.
And the polls suggest that you'll be almost wiped out. You've got 22,000 majority, I think, but others less fortunate, maybe toast.
Well, there's a long way to go. It's not unusual for sitting governments to be unpopular or behind in the polls mid-term, and that's exactly where we are mid-term. There's a long way to go. There's a lot of work to do. A lot of work is being done. So everything to play for at the next general election whenever it comes.
OK, we've got those 500 days to come. Well, that's all we have time for. My thanks to my guests, Lawrence